10:30 here in New York now. There are new concerns over White House credibility when it comes to the Benghazi terror attack. As a new poll shows, a majority of people, 53%, say the White House is mostly hiding something related to the attack. Just about a third think that they're mostly telling the truth. General Jack Keane, retired four-star general, former vice chief of staff of the Army, and now a Fox News military analyst, among many other things. Nice to see you, General.
Good to see you, Bill.
9 months later.
Yeah.
Can you explain this?
Yeah, it's outrageous. I mean, we still don't have a full accounting of why the security was not right, why Ambassador Stevens' request for security went unanswered, why the leaders of the Department of State, to include the Secretary of State, who knew there were 2 previous attacks, and also an attempt to kill the UK ambassador, why they were not involved in security solutions. All of these things are still unanswered. And then there's the false narrative, which itself, I think, more than anything, probably gets the American people. Because they actually see, well, they see government officials on air creating a narrative that isn't correct. And that is fundamentally disturbing. You've got to trust your government.
When you talk about a security problem and the incidents that had occurred in Benghazi,
right,
why don't you shore that up?
Well, there was a pattern of activity there for over a year.
A year?
A year. One series of attack after another. Two on the consulate, one attempt to kill the UK ambassador, one on the International Red Cross, and the United Kingdom shut down their consulate, left Benghazi. The International Red Cross left as well. These things get reported because it's unusual even for an attack on Kabul in Afghanistan in our embassy. It's unusual for an attack in Baghdad in our embassy. That gets reported when something like that happens to all the principals in national security. In other words, Secretary of State gets that report, Secretary of Defense gets that report, and yes, the President of the United States gets that report.
And Ambassador Stevens had requested security too.
And
do we have yet a full accounting as to why his request was not fulfilled?
Well, we have an accounting that says it was handled at the middle management level inside the Department of State and it wasn't adhered to, but it's not really an accounting of why the security was not provided, why an ambassador was told no, and who actually told the ambassador no.
Now, you said the narrative about the attack is most disturbing because people start to believe their government is not being forthcoming with them. We've been watching all these hearings and these scandals in Washington. This is what we found through Wall Street Journal polling. Does the IRS scrutiny of conservative groups raise doubts about the overall honesty and integrity of the Obama administration? 55%, a clear majority, say yes to that. So you have the IRS story, the AP James Rosen story, the NSA snooping story now, on top of all this Benghazi matter.
Yeah, well, all of that is certainly disturbing. There's a basic distrust, I think, of government to begin with that the people have. But they want to believe the government officials. After all, they vote for them. And the fact of the matter is that when something like this happens and there's a pattern of activity, then you begin to have a credibility problem. And trust, which I think is essential, begins to break down.
We were just talking 30 minutes ago with Chris Wallace. He's going to have Ron Johnson on his program, Fox News Sunday, over the weekend. What is the next ripple in the Benghazi investigation, do you believe? What comes out?
Well, I think we already know that security wasn't right. We already know that there's a false narrative. I think the next thing that will happen is really a discussion with the principals involved. You know, the Secretary of State, I think she will probably be brought in to be questioned at some point, because she was directly involved in this and no one has asked her a question. I think that is the shoe that hasn't dropped.
Yeah. What about Susan Rice's elevation this week? Are you okay with that?
Listen, the president's got a right to pick who he wants to help him. And I would not have picked her, but I'm not in the position. So he can pick who he wants. The fact of the matter is, it is disturbing that he would pick somebody that was so central to a false narrative that the American people received. I think there's a frustration in the White House. I can only speculate that he wanted her to be Secretary of State. He was not able to do that. And by God, he's going to give her a position because he has a lot of confidence in her. And so he's given her this
she does not need Senate confirmation, but they could, I understand, they could subpoena her for her role previously at her post at the UN. Would you expect that?
I don't know where that's going to go. I suspect probably not. I don't think they would do that. And, you know, given her position and now that she's an advisor to the President of the United States and she does have executive privilege over the job once she starts it, she doesn't have it over what took place in the past. So I would suspect they probably would not do that.
We're waiting for the next shoe to drop. Thank you, General. Jack Keane with us in studio here. Thank you, sir.
It's always good to see you, Bill.
You got it. We'll see you and have a great weekend. Okay?